I stood in the courtroom watching my siblings celebrate like they had just won the lottery, high-fiving each other while my aunt smiled that cold, satisfied smile. The judge had just ruled in their favor. My grandmother's will, the one that left me her $5 million estate, was declared invalid. Forgery, they claimed. Manipulation, they said. My brother Daniel pointed at me and mouthed the words, "You're done," while my sister Lauren laughed. They had convinced a judge that I, the granddaughter who spent 5 years caring for my bedridden grandmother, had forged her will to steal their inheritance. I walked out of that courthouse with nothing, no money, no home, no hope. But what they didn't know was that 3 days later I would find something in my grandmother's bedroom that would change everything. A box of cassette tapes and USB drives labeled with dates spanning 8 years. My grandmother's voice, crystal clear, saying the words that would bring them to their knees. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Sarah Bennett, and I'm 32 years old. 5 years ago, I gave up everything to take care of my grandmother Rose when she became bedridden. I quit my marketing job, left my apartment, and moved into her farmhouse. It wasn't a sacrifice I thought twice about. I loved her. She raised me when my parents died, and when she needed me, I was there. My siblings saw it differently. Daniel, my older brother, is an investment banker who visited maybe twice a year. Lauren, my younger sister, is an event planner who was always too busy with her career to check on Grandma. And then, there was Aunt Patricia, Grandma's daughter, a real estate agent who called once a month and always asked about the will. They mocked me constantly. Daniel would say, "We have careers, Sarah. Some of us have ambition." Lauren posted Instagram photos from parties and tropical vacations, while I was changing bedpans and managing medications. Aunt Patricia's favorite line was, "It's so nice you found your calling as a caretaker. Not everyone is cut out for a real career." But Grandma saw through all of it. Late at night, when it was just the two of us, she would hold my hand and say, "You're the only one who loves me for me, not for what I can give you." What I didn't know was that Grandma was documenting everything. For 8 years, she recorded video and audio diaries. She would speak directly to the camera when I wasn't around, narrating her life, her thoughts, and most importantly, how my family treated her. She recorded Daniel's 5-minute phone calls where he only asked about his old baseball cards. She recorded Lauren's 20-minute visits where she spent 15 minutes on her phone. She recorded Aunt Patricia trying to convince her to sell the farm and let Patricia handle her finances. And in every recording, Grandma was sharp, articulate, completely competent. She knew exactly what she was doing. When Grandma passed away peacefully 2 years ago with me holding her hand, my siblings showed up for the funeral, crying like they had lost their best friend. Daniel gave this emotional speech about how close they were. Lauren posted a tribute on Instagram with angel emojis. It made me sick. The will reading was 1 week later. Grandma's estate attorney, Martin Cross, read the words that would ignite a war. "I leave my entire estate, house, farm, and all assets totaling approximately $5 million to my granddaughter Sarah Bennett, who cared for me with love and devotion." The room exploded. Daniel screamed that it was bullshit, that I had manipulated her. Lauren accused me of taking advantage of a sick old woman. Aunt Patricia's voice went ice cold. "This will is invalid. We're contesting it." I was exhausted, grieving, and completely unprepared for what came next. They hired an expensive legal team. Their argument was that Grandma wasn't mentally competent and that I had undue influence over her. They produced witnesses, distant relatives who claimed I had isolated Grandma from the family. I had to hire a lawyer with money I didn't have. My childhood friend Michael Torres helped me, but we were outgunned from the start. Then we discovered something that made my blood run cold. Martin Cross, Grandma's own attorney, had been meeting secretly with Aunt Patricia for months. Phone records showed dozens of calls between them during Grandma's final year. Michael pulled me aside one day and said the words that confirmed my worst fear. "Sarah, I think your grandmother's lawyer was working with your aunt. The investigation revealed everything. Patricia had paid Martin to write the will with technical flaws, vague language, missing declarations of sound mind, so it would fail under legal challenge. The plan was simple: contest the will, have it declared invalid, and the estate would split equally under state law. Patricia would get 50% as the daughter, and Daniel and Lauren would split the rest. I had been set up to fail from the beginning. The court battle lasted 6 months. I watched my life savings disappear into legal fees. Martin's sabotaged will didn't hold up under scrutiny. The judge ruled in their favor. The will was invalid. Under intestacy laws, I got nothing. I wasn't blood. I was the granddaughter through marriage from Grandma's late son. Patricia, Daniel, and Lauren split everything. They celebrated in the courthouse hallway. Daniel looked at me and said, "Next time, don't forge wills. You're lucky we're not pressing criminal charges." Lauren posted on social media, "Justice served." I walked out of that courthouse broken. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Patricia's lawyer threatening me with prison if I continued to defame the Bennett family. They were going to destroy me completely. I moved into a tiny apartment with what little I had left. Michael tried to encourage me, but I was done. I had given 5 years of my life, sacrificed my career, loved my grandmother with everything I had, and they took it all and called me a criminal. One night, I decided to go back to the farmhouse one last time to collect my remaining personal items before Patricia took possession. I walked through those rooms where I had cared for Grandma, where we had laughed and cried and shared 5 years of life together. I went into her bedroom and sat on the floor, letting myself finally break down. That's when I saw it. A box in the back of her closet, hidden behind old quilts. A box I had never noticed in 5 years. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes and USB drives, all labeled with dates. My hands shook as I plugged the first drive into my laptop. Grandma's face filled the screen. She was sitting in her favorite chair, looking directly at the camera, completely lucid and strong. "Hello, my darling Sarah. If you're watching this, I'm gone, and I suspect my family has shown their true colors. I made these recordings to protect you. Everything you need is here. Every conversation. Every cruel word they said when they thought I couldn't hear. Every lie. I was always of sound mind, Sarah, and I'm about to prove it." I sat on that bedroom floor until sunrise, surrounded by tapes and USB drives, watching 8 years of my grandmother's life unfold. She had documented everything. Every single thing. The first recording was dated 8 years before she even became bedridden. Grandma sat in her chair, sharp as ever, and said, "I am Rose Marie Bennett, 75 years old, of sound mind and body. I'm starting this documentation because I know how my family operates. My daughter Patricia cares only about money. My grandchildren Daniel and Lauren visit only when they need something, but Sarah visits because she loves me. I'm recording these conversations to leave a record of truth." I watched recording after recording. Daniel visiting, asking Grandma to co-sign a loan, then leaving after 10 minutes. Lauren asking for money for her business, never once asking how Grandma felt. Aunt Patricia trying to convince Grandma to sell the farm so Patricia could handle her finances. When Grandma declined, Patricia got angry. "You're being stubborn and foolish, Mother." There were videos of Grandma's doctor visits, all confirming her mental competence. There were diary entries where she talked directly to the camera. One from March 2020 made me cry. "Sarah moved in today. She gave up her apartment, her job, her whole life to take care of me. I cried when she left the room. No one has ever loved me like this." Then I found the recording from 2 years ago that changed everything. Grandma's voice was shaky but clear. "My lawyer Martin Cross has been acting strange. I overheard him on the phone with Patricia last week. I think they're planning something. Sarah, if you find these recordings, take them to a lawyer you trust. Not Martin. Never Martin. Fight for what's yours. You earned it." My hands were trembling as I called Michael at 7 in the morning. He arrived within the hour and spent the entire day reviewing every recording. His expression went from skepticism to shock to absolute fury. Sarah, this is ironclad evidence. Your grandmother documented everything: her mental competence, their neglect, their greed, and the conspiracy. Then we found it. The smoking gun. A recording from Grandma's living room where she had left her phone on speaker mode. Patricia and Martin's voices filled the room, clear as day. Martin said, "I'll write the will with technical flaws. It'll look legitimate but won't hold up in court." Patricia responded, "And then it goes to intestacy, and I get my fair share. How much do you want?" 20% of whatever you receive. Done. That old woman won't know the difference anyway. Michael looked at me with fire in his eyes. This is criminal conspiracy to commit fraud. Patricia and Martin are going to prison, and you're getting everything back plus damages. We filed a motion to set aside the original ruling based on newly discovered evidence. We also filed criminal referrals against Patricia and Martin for conspiracy, fraud, and forgery. They had forged doctors' notes claiming Grandma was incompetent. The news reached Patricia within hours. She called me, her voice shaking. "What do you think you're doing? You have no evidence." My voice was calm and ice-cold. "Grandma recorded everything, Patricia. Every conversation, every scheme, every lie. You're done." Her tone changed immediately. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We can settle." I hung up on her. 3 weeks later, we sat in a mediation room. Patricia's lawyer tried to offer a settlement. "My clients will agree to the original will distribution if Miss Bennett drops all criminal complaints and damage claims." Michael didn't hesitate. "Absolutely not. Your clients committed fraud. They defamed my client. They threatened her with prison for crimes they committed. We're going to trial." Patricia tried to appeal to me directly. "Sarah, please. We're family. You used that word to manipulate Grandma for years. Then you stole from her and tried to destroy me. We're not family. You're criminals." Daniel played the sympathy card. "This will ruin us. Our reputations, our careers. You tried to ruin mine. You called me a forger. You celebrated when I lost everything. Why should I care what happens to you now?" The mediation ended with no settlement. We went to trial. Michael presented Grandma's recordings one by one. Her voice filled the courtroom, clear and competent, stating her intentions and exposing their greed. When the recording of Patricia and Martin played, Patricia went pale. Martin Cross had already pled guilty and agreed to testify against them. Medical experts confirmed Grandma was completely competent. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. They found in my favor on every count. The original will was reinstated. I got the $5 million estate. But the jury didn't stop there. They awarded me $4 million in damages for fraud, defamation, and emotional distress. Patricia, Daniel, and Lauren were jointly liable. Between their legal fees and the damages, they were financially destroyed. They would be paying me for the next 20 years. As I walked out of that courtroom, vindicated and victorious, I received a call from the farm manager. "Miss Bennett, we found something else in your grandmother's belongings. A separate letter addressed to you, to be opened only after you won. She knew you'd win." My hands trembled as I realized Grandma had believed in me even from beyond the grave. What could that letter possibly say? I sat on Grandma's porch, my porch now, and opened the sealed letter with shaking hands. Her handwriting was instantly recognizable. "My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, you've won. I knew you would. I knew they'd challenge my will, but I also knew you had the strength to fight." Those recordings weren't just evidence. They were my voice continuing to advocate for you when I no longer could. The money, the house, the farm, these aren't rewards. They're tools. Build something beautiful with them. But most importantly, forgive them. Not for their sake, for yours. Carrying hatred is too heavy a burden. They'll carry the consequences. You carry joy. I love you forever. Grandma rose. I cried, but for the first time in 2 years, they were healing tears. The consequences for my family came swiftly. Patricia was sentenced to 4 years in prison for fraud and conspiracy. Martin Cross lost his law license and got 5 years. Daniel lost his banking position, and Lauren's event planning business collapsed after the scandal became public. Their wages were garnished to pay the $4 million in damages. They would be paying me for the next 15 to 20 years. Every month, I received a payment notification, and every month, I transferred that money directly to the National Caregivers Foundation. I didn't want their money, I wanted their accountability. This way, their debt actually helped people who had sacrificed like I did. I transformed Grandma's farm into the Rose Bennett Equine Therapy Center, providing therapeutic horseback riding for people recovering from trauma and grief. The first client was a young woman who had spent years caring for her sick mother. "I lost myself," she told me, tears streaming. "I don't know who I am anymore." I held her hand. "I understand completely. This place is for people like us, to remember we're more than caregivers. We're whole people who deserve to heal." 1 year after the verdict, Lauren showed up at the farm gate. She looked thin, tired, different. We sat on the porch in awkward silence before she spoke. "Prison visiting hours with Mom are brutal. She still thinks she did nothing wrong. But Daniel and I have had time to think. We were terrible. To Grandma. To you." Her voice cracked. "You spent 5 years taking care of her? We barely visited. Then we felt entitled to her money. We didn't even grieve her. We just grabbed. I'm so sorry, I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it." I took a breath. "I appreciate you coming here, but I can't have you in my life. You made your choices. I've made mine." She nodded, understanding. "Grandma was right about you. You were the only one who really loved her." After she left, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly, but release. 2 years after Grandma's death, I visited her grave with flowers. "Hi, Grandma. The farm is beautiful. We're helping people heal, just like you helped me. Patricia's in prison. Daniel and Lauren are broke. Sometimes I feel guilty. But then I remember, they tried to erase you. I couldn't let them do that." A young woman approached, recognizing me. "You're Sarah Bennett. I read about you. My grandmother just moved in with us. Your story gave me courage to care for her." I smiled. "Document everything. Keep records. And remember, you're not just a caregiver. You're a person who deserves a life too." As she walked away, I looked at Grandma's headstone. "Your story is still helping people. Your voice is still speaking. And I'm finally at peace." They tried to steal my grandmother's legacy. They tried to silence her voice. They tried to break me. But Grandma's recordings gave me something more powerful than money. They gave me proof that love and truth matter. The prize was knowing that for 5 years I did the right thing. And in the end, that was enough. Thanks for listening to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and fighting for what's right.